I used to think the forest was quiet. When I first took the job as a winter fire lookout in Alaska, they warned me about the isolation. Not the danger, not the cold, the isolation. Most guys break in week 2, my supervisor said, handing me the logbook. It's not the snow that gets you. It's the silence. He wasn't wrong. My tower stands 50 feet high, planted in the middle of a boreal forest that stretches for miles in every direction, nothing but black pine, snowdrift, and silence. The kind of silence that's never truly empty. It presses on your skin like a thin film, like the woods are listening. I started the post in late November, just as the last light faded from the sky. In winter, this part of Alaska only gets about 4 hours of daylight, and even that feels muted like a dimmer switch stuck halfway. The days blurred fast. I had a routine. Wake up, boil coffee, check wind direction, temperature, visibility, log it all in the weather book. Then I'd scan the horizon through the binoculars, noting smoke, lightning strikes, or any signs of wildlife migration. At night, I'd eat a freeze-dried meal, maybe red, then sleep in the small bunk just beneath the observation deck. The wind would howl against the wooden frame. The whole tower creaked like an old ship adrift in a frozen sea. Most days were uneventful, peaceful even. Until the 3rd week, it started with a flicker, just past dusk. I was cleaning my lens when I noticed something off in the trees, near the ridge to the north. It wasn't a light, not exactly, more like a reflection. A brief glint, like when metal catches firelight, but it was too high up, maybe 15 feet above the forest floor, and it didn't move like wind. It moved like something watching and shifting slowly. I blinked. The trees looked normal again, still, dense, silent. I chalked it up to tired eyes. Maybe a bird, maybe nothing. The forest plays tricks on people. That's what I told myself. But I kept watching the ridge longer than I meant to. Long after the light was gone, and I swear, just before I turned, I saw something blink back. I didn't report it. What was there to say? That tree looked at me weird. I'd only just started this job. Wasn't about to sound unhinged still. I couldn't shake the feeling. Over the next few nights, I found myself scanning that same ridge longer than I should have. It became part of my routine. Check visibility. Check temperature. Check the ridge. I tried not to obsess, but the forest made it easy. It gives you no feedback, no sound, no movement, just that endless dark green and white. When something does break the pattern, even for a second, it sticks with you. By week 4, I began hearing things, not voices, not footsteps, just shifts, faint, deliberate sounding rustles far below the tower, always around the same time between 2 and 3 a.m. when even the wind seems to hold its breath. Once, I pressed my face against the glass, trying to catch a better angle of the woods below. The moon was full. The snow reflected just enough light to paint shadows across the tree line. That's when I saw them, 2 spots of light, low to the ground, not eyes no glow, just dull, wet reflections, like something oily watching me from the underbrush. They didn't move. I stared for maybe 10 seconds, heart locked in my throat, and then they blinked. No animal does that, no natural blink. It wasn't quick. It was slow, like a lid dragging over a too large eye. I stepped back from the glass. Every instinct told me not to look again, but I did. They were gone that morning. I found tracks at the base of the tower, large, bare, human-shaped, but too wide, toes splayed like an amphibian spread unnaturally far apart. There were no prints leading to or away from them, just impressions in the snow, as if whatever made them had appeared there, briefly, and left no drag marks, no melted snow, just 5 dark prints and silence. I stood there for a long time, just listening to the trees breathe. The radio started acting up on the 5th week. I use a shortwave, model basic but reliable. It's how I send in daily reports, weather conditions, wildlife sightings. Usually, it's just static until my designated check-in window. Then dispatch comes through, all clipped and professional. But that night, I heard something else. I was logging cloud cover when the static changed, not louder, more granular, almost like it was trying to form words. I paused, thinking maybe someone was on an open channel. I adjusted the dial slightly. That's when I heard it, a whisper, so faint, I wasn't sure it was even real. A few syllables, warped and dragged like they'd been stretched underwater. I leaned in, don't look. Then it cut. I froze. Hands still on the dial. The room suddenly felt colder, like someone had opened a window I couldn't see. I stepped back, staring at the radio as if it might say more. Nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the radio on, volume low, hoping to catch it again. But all I got was snow and silence. The next morning, I went through the storage cabinet, something I hadn't done since arriving. I was looking for anything, an old manual, maybe notes from a previous lookout. I found a notebook, no name, just a plain, brown cover, stained at the corners, the edges stiff from damp. I opened it, and a chill went through me. The first page. Read, if you're seeing it, it already knows you. The entries weren't dated. Some were only a line or two. Others were frantic, slashed into the paper. 3 nights now. It's closer. I don't think it walks. It just arrives. The binoculars make it worse. It hates being seen. Woke up to tapping on the hatch. Just 1 tap, every 15 seconds, until sunrise. The last page had a smear of something. Dark, dried like old rust. Do not signal, it learns your voice. I sat with the notebook in my lap, listening to the creaks in the tower. They didn't sound random anymore. They felt intentional, like something was moving just beneath the floorboards, waiting for me to speak. The power went out on the 39th night. It wasn't dramatic, just a soft click, and then the tower dimmed into silence. No heater hum, no radio hiss, just the wind brushing against the glass like cold fingertips. I waited a few minutes, hoping the generator would kick back on. It didn't, which meant I had to go down there. I grabbed my flashlight. My boots felt heavier than usual, like my body already knew something my mind hadn't caught up to. I opened the hatch door and climbed down into the cold. The forest was still, not quiet still. Even the wind seemed to pause, held in the jaws of whatever watched from the dark. The generator shed sat about 20 yards from the tower, half buried in snow. As I walked, my light flickered once, twice. Each time I stopped. Each time the silence seemed to lean closer. When I reached the shed, the door was ajar. I never leave it that way. My hand hovered over the handle for too long. I don't know why. Maybe I expected something to slam it shut. Maybe part of me hoped it would dot inside. The generator was fine. No damage, no frozen fuel line, no tripped breaker. It just wasn't on. I flipped the switch. The engine sputtered, then growled back to life. The tower lit faintly behind me, and that's when I heard breathing. Not mine, not wind, something wet and low, just beyond the edge of my light, like lungs filled with snowmelt. It didn't rush toward me. It didn't retreat. It just waited. I turned slowly, raising the flashlight. At first, there was nothing, just trees and frost and shadow. Then it moved, no footsteps, no sound, just motion like a figure sliding between trees, too tall and too thin. Its body distorted by the cold, but it had eyes, not glowing, not bright dot, just dark, oily and bottomless, watching me, not from curiosity, but recognition, as if it remembered me, as if it had been waiting for me to come down. I didn't run, I walked, deliberately, step by step, flashlight fixed straight ahead, trying not to breathe too loud. I climbed the tower one rung at a time, the wind finally picking up behind me like a whisper chasing my heels. Once inside, I locked the hatch. I didn't look out the windows, not that night. I didn't sleep, not that night, not the one after. I started keeping the binoculars by my cot, the notebook always within arm's reach. Some pages I read over and over again, as if they might rearrange themselves and tell me how to survive this. The more I watched, the more I realized something had changed. It didn't stay on the ridge anymore. Now it circled the tower. Never close. Enough to see clearly, just far enough that my eyes had to work harder, strain against the blur between real and not. Sometimes I saw it standing perfectly still between two trees. Other times it moved jerky, like a puppet pulled by invisible wires. But the worst part, it started mimicking first, the sounds. I heard my own cough echo back through the woods minutes after I made it. Then the metallic scrape of my chair pulled an octave lower, repeated from the darkness, and once God help met tried my name. I was sitting at the desk, staring at static on the radio, when I heard it just outside the tower. Not whispered spoken Jake, not a howl, not an echo, a flat, broken imitation, like someone learning a new word by mouth shape, not meaning it said it again, softer, closer, J. I turned off the radio, sat in total silence, didn't respond. I knew, somehow, that answering would be a mistake. The next day, I found scratch marks on the hatch door, 5 long grooves about chest high, evenly spaced like fingers, except too wide and too flat. The kind of hand that doesn't end in nails, but in edges. That night it knocked, not violently, just once. Then a pause, then again, like it was learning rhythm, like it had watched me knock on the wood table each morning before coffee, and decided to try it too. I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. And after the third knock, it stopped. Not because it left, because it didn't need to knock anymore. It had my attention. I stopped using the binoculars. It didn't help the thing outside. It was closer now. It didn't need lenses to be seen. And I think somehow it wanted me to look. There's a passage in the notebook I hadn't noticed before, folded between 2 pages, hidden like a secret the author didn't want even himself to find. It was written on a torn scrap of map paper, ink smeared like it had been scrawled in a panic. It doesn't come from the woods. The woods are just a door. It watches those who watch too long. Once you focus, it focuses back. Once you notice, it learns. It can't enter unless it understands your shape. That last line chilled me. I thought about the mimicry, the breathing, the knocks. The voice, It wasn't just repeating me, it was practicing. I turned the page. The final entry was dated unlike the others. December 18th. It climbed the tower last night. I heard my own voice calling from the trees, asking to be let in, asking politely. I didn't answer, but the door opened anyway. That was the last thing the previous lookout ever wrote. There were no reports, no missing persons file in the log, just silence, as if the forest itself swallowed the story whole. That evening, I set up a perimeter. I strung a few old pots and pans from the emergency supplies outside the tower makeshift noise traps. Not because I thought it would help, but because I wanted to believe there was still something I could do. The temperature dropped below zero. The trees groaned with frost. The generator buzzed faintly, its rhythm the only thing keeping me sane. Round 3:10 a.m. I heard them, the pots. One, then another, then silence. I stepped to the hatch window and froze. It was at the base of the tower, standing perfectly still, face turned upward. It shouldn't have had a face, but it did now, too wide, too smooth. The features arranged just enough to be wrong. Like someone had described a human to it once, and it tried to make one from memory. It opened its mouth. I didn't hear sound. I felt it, like pressure in my skull. And in my own voice, too flat and too slow, it asked, "May I come up now?" I didn't answer, but it climbed anyway. I heard the creak of the ladder, slow, deliberate, like it knew exactly how much time it had. Like it had studied the sound of my boots, counted the rungs, learned the weight of human movement. I backed away from the hatch, flashlight in hand, heart trying to claw its way out of my chest. The generator sputtered once, then died. Total darkness. Only the faint snowlight from the windows remained. Cold and blue like moonlight through ice. The hatch knob turned. Not forced, not pounded. Turned. I had locked it. But it didn't matter. The bolt slid back anyway. I heard the metal scrape, then the hatch slowly lifting with a long wooden groan. I should have moved. I should have grabbed something, anything. But I stood still, frozen, waiting, and then I saw it, the top of its head, rising through the hatch, hair, skin, a face, my face, but not mine. The angles were all wrong, like looking at your reflection in warped glass. Its eyes were too far apart, its mouth too still, and its skin didn't move right, like it didn't breathe, like it hadn't figured out how it stood fully in the room now, facing me, naked, pale, limbs too long but shaped correctly, muscles in the right places but unused. It tilted its head, like an animal trying to understand a sound. Then it smiled, not out of emotion, out of memory. It had seen me smile once, in a mirror maybe, or during a radio check-in, and now it wore it. The smile didn't reach the eyes didn't blink, they just stared, straight into me. I said nothing, neither did it. It simply took a step forward, and then another. I backed against the wall, and then it spoke again. But not in my voice this time, in someone else's, soft, wavering, female. "Jake, it's cold. Let me in." It wasn't mimicking me anymore. It was mimicking someone I lost. I don't remember what happened after it spoke, not clearly. There's a gap like a reel of film missing a few frames. One moment, I'm pressed against the wall, that thing wearing, my face standing inches away. The next, I'm waking up on the floor. The room was empty. No open hatch, no footprints, no broken things, just the notebook on the desk, closed, But when I picked it up, it wasn't my handwriting inside anymore. It was neat, tight, familiar. Mine. You let it in. It doesn't need your voice anymore. It has your warmth now. Your smell, your memory, you're just echoes. And this place only remembers echoes. I dropped the notebook. My breath fogged the window. I stared out. The forest hadn't changed, but the sky had. It wasn't morning. It wasn't night. It was that color in between, when time forgets what hour it is. And there, on the ridge, saw a figure, standing where I used to stand, looking back at the tower with binoculars. I grabbed mine without thinking, lifted them to my eyes and froze. It was me, but not my shape. My posture, same jacket, same patch on the shoulder, same scar under the eye, but still wrong. He looked through the binoculars and waved. The radio crackled behind me. Static, then a voice, calm, measured. Station 9, do you copy? This is fire, lookout, Delta, confirming visual. Looks like someone's still up there. Another voice chimed in, impossible. Tower 9's been abandoned since the incident in '93. No one's manned it since. Silence, then the first voice again, softer, uncertain, double quotes. But I just saw him move. If someone finds this log, if you're reading it, hearing it, or even dreaming it, don't come looking for me. I'm not here, not really. The forest doesn't take you all at once. It lets you watch yourself go. That's the worst part. It learns you, it wears you, and when it finally gets good at being you, one can tell the difference. Not your voice, not your steps, not even your smile. I think that's why it wanted the tower. Because here, someone's always watching. Someone always wants to understand the quiet. I thought I could outlast the silence. I thought I could keep my mind sharp. I thought I was strong enough not to look back. I was wrong. There's a ridge out there, one you'll see just after the third week. You'll know it when the air turns to still, when your own footsteps feel unfamiliar, when something blinks back. If you see it, don't stare, don't speak, and whatever you do, don't answer when it says your name, because it will, and it will say it like it belongs to you.